Hello! Today I'm going to show you how to make the hem address. The hem address is a pattern that I made 2 years ago, but I always wanted to make a video to explain how to make it. A lot of people that made a dress told me that the dress is amazing, they love it, but the instructions are not the clear that they can be, so they like to ask me a bit more detail. So today I've decided to not only change the instruction, but also film a video and show you how to make it. What fabric you need to choose for the hem address. Some example of fabric you can get as the main fabric are silk, chiffon, some cotton, some viscose, and even crepe fabric. It basically needs to be flowing, light to medium weight, and non-stretchy fabric. This is for the main fabric, but you will also need a lining fabric. And this time you will go for something stiffer. As you can see, the hem address has kind of a corset at the top. You will need a fabric that's going to be able to hold it in place. And because your main fabric is probably, as I said, lightweight and flowy, not stiff at all, then you will have to go for something like that for your lining. For me, this time, I chose 100% cottons and it is quite perfect for it. And the last thing is I also decided to add some boning inside so that it can actually really hold everything in place. And now I can play with my strap without any issue, and the corset stay in place even without my straps. If you want the same effect, you can add the boning. I will explain how to do it later, and of course, you will also need a zipper. And the last thing before actually starting sewing, I'm going to talk about the ruffles. On the hem address, you have a ton of ruffle. You have one big on each side, you have one big at the center, you have two small on each slit, and then you have two on each straps. And as much as ruffles are really gorgeous, I love how they look, they can be quite complicated to hem. So you have different options for that. The first one is to use your serger. You can make a roll hem. Usually on your instruction manual you will have all the different settings that you need to have on your serger to have this hem, so you can do that. If you don't have a serger, you can still make a rolled hem using a special foot on your sewing machine. And lastly, if you don't have a serger or the special foot, you can make what I did on the first hem address, which is a really small zigzag stitch. It is not the best looking, I'm gonna be honest with you, but sometimes you don't really have a choice. For what I can remember, you couldn't really see it, so I feel like it can be a really good option. No matter what you chose, I advise you to try. When you will cut your ruffle, you will have a circle in the middle. So you can use them because you're maybe not going to be able to use it cutting anything else, so use them to try on the edge of this circle, to try the different option, the different setting on the sewing machine or your serger to have the perfect finish. And now I think I'm done with everything I needed to say to you before sewing, so let's go. So the first step is going to finish the edges of all the ruffle that you have. So the method that you chose before, you will do that for all the ruffles, and then you will also need to finish one of the end on each of the ruffles. To do that, you will fold it over 5mm, then another time over 5mm, and then you will sew to secure everything. You will do that, as I said, for every ruffles that you have. The second end of each ruffle will be finished at the end. The second step is going to the drawstrings. To make the drawstring, you will use your iron and you will make like a bias step. So you're going to fold it in half, then you're going to fold the edges inward. Fold it in half again. Take one of the end and open one of the edges. Fold the end inward 1 cm. Take the already folded edge and keep folding it along the center crease. Take the unfolded edges and fold it inside, so you will tuck it into the crease. And then you will have to do the same for the other end. You will press everything. And then you're going to do a top stitch at about 2mm from the edge. The third step is going to sew the loops. So you should have a rectangle of about 40 cm, I think. You're going to make a bias step, so fold it in half, fold the edge inward, fold it in half again, sew the edge. We will not finish the end this time, and then you're going to divide and cut your piece into 8 different ones. For the fourth step is going to sew the top. So you will have to sew together first the center front and the side front. So you place the side front on top of the center front and you sew. Same for the other side. Then you're going to take the side back, put them right sides together onto the side front, sew them together, and then the center back, place it on top of the side back, right sides together, and you're going to sew. You will do that 4 times, so twice for the main fabric, for each side, and then twice for the lining, again, for right side and the left side. We're going to add the ruffle onto the top. So you will need the 2 ruffles for each side. One is going to be 14 centimeter and the other is going to be 9 centimeter wide. You're going to place first the 14 centimeter ruffles on the right side of your top at the center. Make sure that you leave a 2.5 centimeter gap at the bottom of the top, and you're going to put the end of the ruffle that is already finished. Then you're going to place on top of that, in the same way, the 9 centimeter ruffle. You're going to sew at 5 millimeter from the edge, so inside the seam allowance of 1 centimeter, and then you will do that another time for the other side. Then you're going to align still the 2 ruffles, so 40 centimeter and 9 centimeter in the same way, but on the side that is in diagonal. So that's going to be the neckline part. To make it easier, you can cut inside the seam allowance of the ruffles at the corner so that it can be easier to then fold it and place it. And then you're going to make a seam again at 5 millimeter from the edge. Do that for the other side, and now you can put them on top of each other, right sides together, and sew the center seam. So really the one that is vertical and not the one in diagonal. Then you're going to do the same for the lining, but without the ruffle. So it's only the 2 pieces of the lining, right sides together, and you're going to sew in the center. Now you can shorten all the seam allowance. You're going to cut notches inside the seam allowance, especially at the curves, and you're going to press all the seam allowance open. So first thing, take your top in the main fabric and you're going to cut inside the seam allowance of the ruffle again, where the straps are no longer attached to the top. It will make the process easier when we're going to have to finish the straps later. Then you're going to place the top and the lining right sides together, and you're going to sew the entire top edge. Shorten the seam allowance and press the seam allowance toward the lining. Finish by understitching to secure the seam allowance to the lining so that the lining will not show when you will actually wear the dress. Next step is going to sew the loops to the top. So take 4 of the 8 pieces that you have for the loop, you're going to fold them in half and you're going to place them on the right side of the lining with the same distance apart. Be careful to leave a 2 cm seam allowance at the bottom, and then you're going to make a seam at 5 mm from the edge to secure everything. Do the same for the other side, and then you're going to take the top in the main fabric, place it on top of the lining, right sides together, and you're going to sew everything. Shorten the seam allowance, trim the corner, and then you can turn your top inside out and press everything. So the next step is an option. As I said, if you want to add boning onto your dress, you can, but if you don't want, you can switch to the next step. So to add boning, the first thing is to make sure that all your seams on the top and on the lining are in the same place. They are aligned. Then you're going to sew inside the seam that you made before. So it's going to be the seam in between the center fronts and the side fronts, then in between the side front and the side back, and then in between the side back and the center back. Now you're going to have to create boning casing on your top. To make sure that you have the right size, you're going to have to measure the boning. For me it was 7 millimeters, so I decided to go for a boning case of 1 centimeter. That means I have to sew at 1 centimeter from the seams that I just made, another one exactly the same way. I do that for all the seams that I previously made, and I also do that for the end of the top, to have a boning next to the loop. Once I've done everything, I can take my boning and I can place it inside it. Make sure to round the end of the boning, and don't forget to cut them a tiny bit shorter than your top, so make sure that it's at least 2 centimeters for the seam allowance. Okay, so this step, we're going to start working on the bottom part, so the skirt part. First, make sure to check the length of the skirt, so you can see if the length is okay for you, and if it's not, you can adjust it. Once you've done that, you can also check if they are all at the same length. So you have a lot of different parts for the skirt. Make sure that everything is aligned properly. When you finish that, you will take the front part. So you have 2 center fronts and 2 side fronts. Mark where the slit is supposed to start. So you have the mark on your pattern, but if you want to change it and make it, for example, longer, you can. So you take your ruffle for the slit, you take the finish end of it, and you're going to place on the right side of your fabric where the slit is supposed to start. Align everything, and you're going to sew to attach the ruffle to the skirt. Be careful to leave 3 centimeters at the bottom, because you will need to have this place unsewn to finish and to have the hem at the end. So you will do that for the 2 center front and the 2 side front for the slit part. Then you will finish all the seam allowance, so not only the seam allowance with the ruffle, but also the seam allowance on top of the ruffle. Then you're going to place 1 center front and 1 side front right sides together, and then you're going to sew above the ruffle. Finish by pressing the seam allowance open above the ruffle and towards the skirt, so the inside of your skirt, at the ruffles. Now you can do another understitch to secure the seam allowance of the ruffle onto the skirt. Now we're going to sew them together. So for that, you first need to take the ruffle that I called center/side. So you take one of them. You take the end that is finished, and you're going to place it at the top of your skirt at 2.5 centimeters from the top edge. Then you're going to sew at 5 millimeters from the edge, again stopping at 3 centimeters from the bottom of the skirt. Now you have one side of your front without a ruffle and another one with the ruffle. Before sewing them together, you have to cut inside the seam allowance of the ruffle again at the bottom where you stop sewing. Again, it will make everything easier when we will have to hem the dress. Now you're going to place your 2 front pieces right sides together, and you're going to sew. Finish the seam allowance with a zigzag stitch or a serger stitch. Now you're going to sew the back of the skirt. If you want to add more ruffle, it is possible. You just need to have more fabric than what I said, but you can make the adjustment if you want. Now you're going to take all the back pieces. So you have 2 center back and 2 side back. Place them right sides together, sew. Finish the seam allowance with the zigzag stitch or a serger, and then you can press them. You should have 2 parts for the back, one left and one right. Now, so you have to attach the last 2 ruffles at the back side. Exactly like you did for the center one at the front, you will do the same method for this one. So you take the end that is finished of the ruffle, place it 2.5 centimeters from the top edge, align everything, sew at 5 millimeters, so inside the seam allowance, and stop the seam at 3 centimeters from the bottom. Then you're going to cut inside the seam allowance of the ruffle at the bottom, and you will do that for the two sides, left one and right one. Then you can put them on top of the front, right sides together. Sew the side seam, finish the seam allowance with a zigzag stitch or a serger, and press everything. The next step is going to sew the zipper. First of all, finish the seam allowance of the center back. I did not do it because I totally forgot, but it's gonna be way easier for you after. So once you finish the seam allowance, you can place the zipper on the right side of your fabric and you can attach it with the seam. Then you can finish sewing the part under the zipper by placing them right sides together, and then you can sew. It's going to sew the top and the bottom together. So you're going to have to place them right sides together. Make sure that all the seam on the top and on the skirt are aligned together. Then you can sew and finish the seam allowance with a zigzag stitch or a serger. Don't forget to also finish the part next to the zipper on each side that is not attached to the top. Then you press the seam allowance toward the skirt and you can sew to secure the part next to the zipper onto the skirt. Okay, it is almost finished. Let's finish the straps. So you have to cut them at the size that you want. For me, I didn't change the size because I wanted to have the effect of the straps at the back. You fold the end toward 5 mm one time and then a second time, and you sew to secure everything. So you have 4 straps. Now to finish the straps, you have to place the top in front of you, right side facing you. So technically, you should have the right side of the 14 cm ruffle against the wrong side of the 9 cm ruffle. You're going to take the 9 cm one and you're going to turn it so that the right side is going to be placed on the wrong side of the 14 cm one. Align everything, sew, finish the seam allowance with a serger or zigzag stitch, and then you're going to take the 9 cm ruffle and you're going to place it back on top of the 14 cm one with both of their right side towards you. Press everything so that the seam allowance can't be seen because it's going to be in between the two ruffle, the two straps. Do the same thing for the other side, and now you can attach your strap at the back of your top. Try on your dress, make sure that it is the right size, then you can make a seam on the right side of the 14 cm ruffle to attach the ruffle to the top so that it can be invisible when you look at the back of your skirt. And finally, the last big step is going to hem your dress. When you have your perfect length for you, you're going to leave at least 1 cm for the seam allowance, and you're going to fold the ends 2 times toward 5 mm, and then you're going to sew to secure everything. Do that for all the ruffle, and then you can hem your dress. So fold the hem of the dress 2 times on 1 cm. Be careful to not have the ruffle inside the hem. And now finally you can finish by pressing everything. You have a lot of ruffle, so it can be difficult, but it adds so much of the perfect finish that we all want. And there it is, you have your dress. Hopefully the video really helps you making the dress, and if you still have question or issue with the pattern, with the instruction, with the different detail, don't hesitate to contact me. Bye!